Hey, this is Professor Triplet, and we are going to continue on with our curve items here, or objects. We're starting from curves. So let's go ahead and do this back handle, which I'm going to say is probably the most complicated piece on this object, but we'll do it in stages so it won't seem too overwhelming. The first thing that we want to do is just get the basic curve out, and then we'll go ahead and loft it and just get the basic shape going before we go ahead and start modeling it closer, getting the details in there. So first thing that we have to think about is, how was this thing made? So basically, if you were to hold this lamp in your hand, you'd realize this was kind of like I'm not a manufacturing expert, but I believe it was a piece of metal that was stamped out and then it was bent into shape so that it fit onto this lamp. So that being said, at one point this whole handle piece here was just flat, and then they whoever the manufacturer was just bent it into shape. You can see it's not really perfect. It doesn't look like it was, machine cut, or I should say machine bent. It looks like maybe it was bent by hand. It's possible. So let's go ahead and just look at how we would create something like this. So the first thing is we're going to make a Bezier curve. So I have my own tools here, so I'm going to grab a Bezier curve, and I'm going to start off basically like I'm making it right on the edge of this cylinder, the big cylinder in the middle. I also have to take in mind that this thing has been bent onto the cylinder, so I'm not going to worry about that bending until later. We're going to handle it just like we handled some of these other parts. We'll bend it with like a bend deformer. So let's go ahead and just start off by dropping this one down here, just a single click, and then from here I'm going to click and drag a little bit, and then click and drag a little bit, and then same thing. So like so. I'm actually going to follow probably the outside edge here. So these first two don't look perfect, but I'll move those later. So let's go ahead and just maybe closer right here, like so. And then here I can make it a little bit bigger of a curve, about right there. And then from here, we'll start dropping down into this direction here. Let's see here. Let's go a little bit further down. We'll have to adjust that one a little bit. And then we just want to bring it to the center. So we're only going to make a quarter of this thing, and then we'll mirror it twice, once in the X direction and then once in the Y direction. So let's get it down to about the center. I'm guessing that's about right there, but that can be adjusted too. Let's turn off our, let's make sure that we can't select this. Okay, our background is a reference, so we're good with that. And I'm going to make sure that these two are aligned by scaling them together, like so. And we'll go ahead and adjust this one first. We'll work our way kind of backwards here. Let's bring this up a little bit. And just minor adjustments. This here we can just bring in a little bit. And I kind of like that it's not perfect, and I'm going to sort of leave it that way. I think that that's nice. Something like this shouldn't look like it's too clean. And then from here, these need to be moved back a little bit. So that should be something like that. That should be up here. And then let's see if I can play around with this little handle here. So just play around with these handles, make sure they're right. This one right here, I'm going to scale to make sure that that's nice and straight. And you may want to bring this one up a little bit, like so. And same here, like so. That looks pretty good. Now, I don't like this little pinch right here, so we'll just smooth that out a little bit. That is why I like using the Bezier tool. I feel like it's easier to adjust it later. If you're not used to it, or you've been using a different tool, by all means, it doesn't really matter. But I started off in 3D Studio Max, and they had a good Bezier tool, and I use it all the time, so that's just what I grew accustomed to. Whatever tools you like, as long as you get the job done. Okay, so here we have our curve. All right, so let's go to object mode, and I'm gonna go to the back view. Now you can see here our back view looks a little bit off because of the fact that the picture just wasn't taken perfectly, or the object wasn't aligned perfectly, and that's fine. So what we'll do is we'll just adjust to it for right now. So since I said I'm going to make a quarter of this thing, I'm just moving that to the center, and then I'm going to hit Control D to duplicate it, and I'm going to move this. You know what, I'll make it on this side. I think this side looks like it might be easier to see the details, so I'll do it between these two pieces and do it about right there. So shift select the second one, and if you have the same settings set up on your last piece, you could go ahead and, as the bracket piece that we did, you can just go ahead and hit the loft button. But if you don't, these are the settings that I have in here. I'm just going to hit apply, and I'll see if they work out. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at that. That looks pretty good to me. I like to go ahead and just hit 3 and see what it looks like smooth, and I think that'll work fine. Alright, so let's go back to our, actually we'll stay in perspective for a second. So I have to extrude these edges out so that I can create these flaps that come out here. So let's go ahead and just grab those, and I am not over my geo. There we go. Alright, so from a back view, it should be selecting those three points that should be making this piece right here. Now I'm going to go a little bit further because there is a curvature happening here, and I want to be able to make sure it's pretty accurate. So let's just go ahead and hit extrude, and we'll drag that out like so, and I'm just going to go a little bit past it because it's going to be curving later. And if you like, you can put an extra division in. You don't have to do that right now, but it's going to end up happening in one of these tutorials anyway. So let's go ahead and drop that, and then let's look down here. Okay, so definitely want to take this to the center point right here, and we're going to be cutting in this shape. So one of the things that we could do right now is we can think about, actually I like to just cut it, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut it, and I'm always thinking about like an 8-sided, if I can, I do like an 8-sided circle. So go ahead and just cut this guy in, put one there, so it wants to snap on there, let's undo that. Snap it right there, is about where I want it, and then we'll put that one right there. Okay, and from here I know that, you just hit enter there, I know eventually I'm going to bring this out like so, and then this is going to come to here. Oops, wrong button. There we go, meant to hit enter. Alright, so then we could just target weld this over like so, and if we like, we can balance that a little bit. We'll go ahead and drop an edge in here. Now, if I try to drop an edge loop, it doesn't work quite right, but if you hold shift and you drag from the outside of the mesh and let go, if you're dragging horizontally, it should make a nice straight horizontal line, and then you can just go something like that. And so right now we basically have that shape cut in. So let's go back to our, you can see our reference there, hit delete on those, and there we go. That's basically how you cut that shape in. And eventually we'll put some fencing around this so it'll hold the edges, but for right now we can leave it alone. So this is like the basic shape. Let's go ahead and work on this part right here. So obviously we kind of have the same thing going on here, where we've got this curve happening. So actually, before I do that, let's move this edge back a little bit. Let's just grab this edge, double click it, move it back like so. That should be fine. And then we can actually just go like this, move that back, go to our verts where we want them. You don't really have to cut anything with a piece like this. Now, this, you know, this overhang doesn't look like it's perfectly conforming to the piece. I'm gonna go with my gut and just kind of leave it rounded like that. I'm not worried about it being 100% perfect. I am gonna grab this and drop a, oops, that's not where I wanted it. I wanted 50% right there. And then let's go back to our verts and just pull that out a little bit. So now that looks nice and round. At this point it's all quads, so we should be pretty good to go here. And I just saw this here. I think this should be about right there. Just trying to balance it out a little bit. All right, let's look at what we got. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So now probably the most challenging part is this little wing right here. All right, we haven't even touched that yet. So that's going to be, let's tackle that guy right now. Now we probably want to look at it from both views. So let's look at our left view. You can see that it's basically just, it's got kind of a rounded edge here, and it sort of looks like this wing. So go back to our back view. What we want to do is just picture what this would look like unfolded on the outside. So we just kind of like in our head, we're mirroring the shape here on the outside. So we only have to do 1/4 of it. Let's go ahead and grab the edges here. And let's see, keep going till about, that should be about right. This is where it starts making that turn. Maybe one more. So let me look at my perspective view. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna say that's okay. It can be fixed later if I decide that no, that wasn't the right spot. So I'm just gonna, I have 2018, so instead of hitting extrude, I'm just gonna hold shift and drag out. I think that's a thing that they took from 3D Studio Max, which I used to use all the time. So I'm kind of enjoying that now I get to use it again. So let's go ahead and just we'll kind of adjust this back in a little bit like so. And I'm going to do this one vert at a time. And again, what I'm doing is I'm picturing in my head the same curvature that's going on right here, but just kind of mirroring it. I mean, if I really wanted to, I could technically just grab all of these and you know, kind of move them over on this one and then just do an invert scale back to the other side. But I think it'll work out fine if I just, you know, just do it this way. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's pull these out a little bit. Pull this one out a little bit. So we get this nice curve. And of course, I'm probably going to need a few extra edges in here, especially here. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Drop that one in. Move this out a little bit just to keep that curve nice. And same thing, let's go into our perspective mode. So we can see right here we got this huge space here, and I think it's going to look kind of segmented if I don't add something new in there. And we'll go back to our back view. Just take that one, move it a little bit, take this one. And if you notice, I'm always staying in one axis. I'm always staying in my x-axis when I'm moving these. So just I would definitely do that for right now. And let's see here. Actually, now that I look at this, and maybe some of you guys noticed it who are watching already, that probably should be a little bit more like this. Let's move this in a little bit closer. I haven't thought about exactly how I'm going to resolve that piece right there. I've modeled this before, but at this moment I'm not remembering what I did to resolve this little piece right here. So for right now, I'm just going to leave it a quad, and you know, maybe handle it later. I'm sure it's probably going to end up something like this. Maybe, we'll see. Or it'll be a triangle, and I'll bring that triangle through here to make it so it turns into a quad. So let's see if that makes any sense. What I'm saying is that I just realized I said that, but I'm not explaining it. So watch this. This is what I'm saying. This is probably the solution. Something like that. And then you get a triangle here. So what you do is you just drop another edge right there and grab that and then just pull that in a little bit. So you get like a change in polygonal flow, basically. But now we have all quads again. So I think I'm just going to leave it like that. We'll see how that works out. If I don't like it later, I can always change it. Okay, so that looks pretty good. But now what we need to be able to do... Oh, actually, let's undo that. Because I just realized since we have a triangle here, and we're going to need an extra edge in here, why not just go ahead and add that edge in here, and we'll snap it to the center right there. And what that does, it basically does the same thing we were doing before, but it's going to put that extra, it's taking the extra edge and adding it in here instead of going out this way. So that should work too. That actually would be nicer. All right, so that's going to be my solution. In fact, I think that is what I did the first time I went through this. So, all right, so now what do we need to do? Well, we need to bend these. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just grab a few of these. When I say bend, I'm going to do it manually by hand this time instead of using like a bend. And I'm going to get to there, but what I don't want is I don't want those two. So I want to take all of these and I want to basically flip them on themselves. So they're going to be over here, but on an angle like we see in the reference. All right, so to do that, what I need to do is I need to basically move my manipulator so it's on this edge right here, so I can actually just go ahead and use a rotate. But I'm going to do it from the top view. Now this is the point where this actually will come into handy, where you have this top view in here. And you can see it's not lined up perfectly. This will be a moment where I'll actually go in and I want to get this top view here. Let's see here. That's front back, so we need this one here. Okay, so I'm going to move this so this goes right where I want it. Oh, I'm probably grabbing the wrong thing. Let's grab this right there. All right, that's what we want. And even the angle's a little bit funky. I can tell that it probably should be rotated a little bit, like so. So for right now, what I'll do is I'm going to freeze the transformations. So here's a little trick. I'll just freeze the transformations at this point right here. And then I can move this to where I want it, and later I can just zero out my transformations that'll move it right back. So we'll go like that, and like this. See, the reason why I'm doing this is because I moved this piece to line up with my reference, and now it's not matching the other references. So I'll have to, just keep adjusting things. So, okay, we go back to this piece, and we will make sure that in this frame we are in X-ray. Let's go back to our perspective view, make sure we get this. Let's see if our verts are still selected. Back to the top view. So here we go. Now this is where we're going to change where our manipulator is, so it's over here, and so that we can actually rotate these around. So this is kind of cool. You hit D on your keyboard, and you can actually just slide this over here. And, if you want to make it perfect, you can. I can hold V and snap it right there. Just make sure you're only snapping it in one axis. And then from here, hit D again. And then you go ahead and get your rotate tool. And then I can go ahead and just pull that over like so. So that's how we do that. And I have a feeling I'm doing it a little bit too much, so I'm going to lighten it up a little bit. Just kind of make it a little bit less, like so. And of course, there's some leeway. We can adjust this later. It doesn't have to be perfect. All right, so where are we at now? We're almost at 20 minutes, so I think this is a good time to stop here, and we'll continue this in a second video. All right, thanks for watching.